Alright guys, welcome back. So you've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail, you know what this video is about. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about Auston Matthews and why I believe in 2 years' time, when he becomes a UFA, we could see him doing something very similar to what Johnny Gaudreau has done this past offseason by completely ditching the Calgary Flames the moment he became a UFA to now playing on a completely different team, in his case that being the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, if you look at these two situations side by side, they actually share a lot of parallels. On Johnny Gaudreau's side, you have him playing on a Canadian team, and with that comes a Canadian market with passionate fans who are overly critical of him, giving him a lot of pressure to perform, and when he doesn't, analysts and reporters and the media just completely tear him apart of his every move on the ice. In addition, during Johnny Gaudreau's tenure as a Calgary Flame, they didn't necessarily have the best playoff performances, and I mean, they did have a couple of series wins here and there, but for the most part, it was pretty underwhelming. Compare this now to Auston Matthews' side of the story, where he also plays for a Canadian team in the Toronto Maple Leafs, where they have very passionate fans who care a lot and can oftentimes be overly critical of Matthews. This, along with the media, just completely tear him apart when he has an off night or an off game, or when he doesn't come up clutch and score a goal in a key situation. It can honestly be a lot of pressure, and this along with the playoff disappointments, obviously we don't need to delve into that area, but they haven't won a series with Matthews, and that is obviously another big issue that Leafs fans have had, saying that Matthews can't perform in the playoffs, and they can't get it done, and they need to switch up and whatnot. So compare these two situations side by side, and the resemblance is almost uncanny. I mean, everything I said about Gaudreau does also apply to Auston Matthews in some shape or form. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in 2 years' time based off Matthews' decision. But I'd be lying if I said to Leafs fans that they shouldn't worry about what he decides to end up doing once that contract does end up expiring. But I mean, at the end of the day, 2 years is 2 years, and they have a couple more chances now to maybe win a playoff series and make a deep run. So a lot can change in that time frame, but say nothing does end up changing and they stay the same as they are right now, then we could very well be seeing Auston Matthews in new stripes once that contract does end up expiring. That is what today's focus is on, so make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and for a question of the day, let me know what you think about this whole Auston Matthews situation. If he's going to stay, if he's going to go, and if he does end up going, which team do you think he will end up playing for? That is my question for you in the comments section below. So yeah, without further ado, let's actually get right into today's video. So obviously there has to be a motive here. There has to be a reason as to why Auston Matthews would want to leave the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first place. And my best guess right now would have to do with the toxicity of playing in a Canadian market. I feel like a lot of American NHL fans in particular aren't aware of just how brutal it can be for a player coming into a Canadian team who just gets absolutely slewed whenever he makes a mistake or performs under what he is expected of based upon his contract. Some of it is so terrible, and I see so much stuff because I am a Vancouver Canucks fan living in Vancouver, so I'm surrounded by this market, and trust me, there are a ton of Vancouver Canucks fans that I just despise when I see some of the comments that they say on Twitter and on Instagram going after a player, messaging him personally. It's just so terrible to see, and you wonder why a Canadian team hasn't won a cup in so many years, why Canadian teams have sucked for so long. This is why. It's because the media and the fans in Canadian markets scare away all the good players. When good players in America see what's happening to the good players in Canada, what's that going to make them want to do? Come over here? No, they're going to be repelled from going over there. They're going to stay in America because it's chill. It's one of the main reasons why Johnny Gaudreau left Calgary. It was a lot of pressure, and he was just getting criticized for every move he made. I know they said a lot about moving closer to home and stuff like that, but trust me, this is a huge factor as well, and I feel like it's very similar in this case here for Auston Matthews, as the Toronto Maple Leafs fandom is very passionate, and trust me, they put a lot of weight on his shoulders to perform, and when he doesn't, believe me, his stat line is probably the first one that they go to see if he was the reason that they lost the game. If Matthews didn't score, oh, that's probably why they lost the game. If Matthews didn't perform to his regular standard, that's probably why they lost the game. And it's a lot of pressure, and if anything, it's just really unreasonable on their part to expect so much out of these players who, don't get me wrong, obviously are supposed to play well, but they're not going to be perfect every single night. They're not going to be scoring 2 goals a night, making sure that your team secures the victory. Like, people are going to have off nights, and it proves that these are just people, and even the best of the best make mistakes. it is the most annoying thing too, because I feel like the same people that are ripping these guys to shreds whenever they make a single mistake on the ice are the same people that are bringing them up and giving them all this praise when they do something right. Like, it just doesn't add up, and I see it all the time when these quote-unquote fans, you know what, I can't even call them fans, they're so inconsistent, see Matthews score a goal, and they're just like, oh, Matthews, the savior of the franchise, he's the best goal scorer in the NHL, they'll put him on this pedestal, and whenever he makes a mistake or doesn't perform in a single game, maybe misses a shot and it'll lead them to lose the game, they'll be like, oh, Matthews, he can't perform in the playoffs, he's not built for this. Just like that, they switch up and say, trade the guy. Like, they flip on a dime. It is ridiculous. And I have so many examples of this in Canucks Nation as well. Like Pettersson, for example, the guy came in first 3 seasons as a Canuck. He was exceptional. He was the franchise player. Everyone loved Pettersson. He was the GOAT in our eyes. But then this season, at the start of the year, he didn't really have the best start. He had a couple of bad games. He was dealing with a wrist injury, and he wasn't putting up that many points. And people were already willing to trade the guy. I was just losing my mind. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Canucks fandom had completely turned their backs on the guy that had built up his reputation as the franchise player for 3 seasons in a row, and they were already willing to switch up. Like, it was just